There we go. Cool. Screen is recording. Um, Howdy. So yeah, uh, Taylor, Diana, I think it is just the two of you tonight. Let me. What I had planned on, if we go down to day two here, is sort of continue our discussion and our look at pivot tables. I figured some stuff out that I was trying to figure out last time, which is grouping numeric data. Um, the pivot charts, I figured out what was happening with my pivot chart, why it wouldn't work. Um, and then just some extra little pivot table information. This was something that Jim had wanted to talk about, but I'll even if he's not here, I'll share it so either he can watch it in the video, but also so you two can potentially benefit from it because it is sort of a useful feature, which is uh, pulling data from another spreadsheet into the spreadsheet you're working on. And we'll sort of talk about use cases for that. And then I'll try to end so we can talk with a little bit of time so we can talk about the last two classes. Um, was there anything either of the two of you wanted to make sure we covered tonight? Did you have any specific topic desires or anything like that?
I stumbled my way through pivot tables today. I, it was a lot of frustration as far as, um, like, there's so many different kinds of filters within the pivot table when you're trying to organize the data. So the data that I have to organize is I'm filtering through thousands of lines of like suppliers,
Uh
and
huh.
then I'm having to organize it by how they're invoicing. So it's like either paper invoice or like online. And then when I put it into the pivot table, it gives me the certain amount of people that are doing it online and paper invoices. And then I have to then do another spreadsheet within the spreadsheet. Oh, I had like 4 sheets going today, and I was like, oh god.
I mean,
And it, and then I had to organize it by like the top 20 of the um like as far as like for the paper invoices of
mhm.
the largest amount within the top 20 of the thousands that I had to go through.
Yeah, no,
If that makes sense.
no, it does make a bit of sense, uh, and yeah, hopefully tonight as we look at this more, it'll help you sort of feel even more empowered around the pivot tables, and like uh, hopefully help you feel like you sort of better understand what the pieces of them are because we're going to dive in even a little bit deeper, and there might even be potential to continue talking. Pivot tables are a whole big thing, right, within Excel. And in fact, once you learn pivot tables pretty well, um, it can it can prevent you from needing to use things like formulas. Many of the most common formulas that you might like just type into a cell, the sort of stuff that we talked about in the first class, um, because the pivot tables will automatically do a lot of that stuff for you. So you don't even have to write the formulas. Um, cool. Okay.
The undo button is the best button in Excel.
Yes, it is. It is the best button. It is the most important feature in basically any piece of software, actually. Um, so, um, yeah, and actually, I'm going to talk about as we go through this. I'm going to talk about sort of my troubleshooting process as well because I think that's a really important topic at this stage. Is things aren't going to work out the way you want them to work out the first time, every time, or even most of the time, or even ever. Um, and so being able to troubleshoot your Excel sheet and the stuff you're doing is a really important skill ultimately. And so we're also going to talk a bit about that. I'm going to talk about like sort of share my own experience as I was working on preparing and stuff like that about the way I went through troubleshooting, just as a sort of it as an example, as a way to sort of approach it. And then we can obviously have like a discussion around it if we want to. Um, Okay. Um, uh, let's sort of dive in here. I am using. I won't be using the web version of Excel today. I am using the actual desktop version. Uh,
Hey,
yeah. Um, Part of the issue was I'm running Linux, and so like on my main computer, but I have a secondary computer that runs Windows, and so I'm doing a sort of a convoluted thing here where I'm actually sharing my screen from my Windows computer, but I'm still connected to this call on my Linux computer just because it's a better computer. It's just more powerful and stuff like that. Um, but that said, I think this should work. My hope is that there's no issues with the screen recording trying to do things this way, but we will find out. um, so, oh, actually, let's go back here. So I'm going to start today with that same car inventory sheet. So if you need to download a fresh one, it's right here. I already have it downloaded, so I'm just going to switch over to my Excel right here. Um, and I'm going to open this one. Oh, check out our new look. Not now. Don't care. Okay. Um, so here is that same sort of used car dealership data that we were messing with before. It has several different sort of pieces of information. Is hopefully a pretty good example of types of data you might need to work with. And so the first thing we're going to do, actually, let me pull up my notes and make sure that is the first thing I want to do here. Oh, right. That's the first thing I want to do was talk about how to group numeric data. So right off the bat, I'm gonna just click in here and go to on my insert tab. So not from home, but from insert pivot table. Actually, I'm just going to click it, and it's going to auto-select all of the data that it sees on this page. Um, and instead, and I'm going to put it on a new worksheet. I still have a old one in here, which I will um, delete. And this is from when I was. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna really quick. I'm just gonna rename this so I don't lose it in case I want to come back to it. So here's where our pivot table is, and just the blank pivot table for us. Um, so what I want to do is I want to use this table to um, group the data, the price data, into intervals. So before what I had showed was here. Let's take our make um, and put it over here, and let's take our price. Um, actually, no. Here's what I want to do. All right, let's take our price and put it over here. Whenever I'd use the price as a row or as a column, it looked at each of the individual prices in the list, right? And that's for data like that, like this isn't super useful. Um, it would be more useful if we could group it into common intervals, right? In groups of 1,000 or 500 or whatever. And so that's what I want to show us how to do here. Um, so I have my price there, and I'm also going to put it down here in values. I'm going to change this though from sum of price. So just a reminder how I do this. We're going to click down on this, go to value field settings, and I'm going to change this to count. And clearly, there's only one car that costs 2,000, one car that costs 3,196. There's only one in each of these, right? Which is why why this is not a super useful way to look at the data. But if I could figure out how many cars I have in various ranges, that could be more useful. Um, and notice you can throw the same sort of field into both rows and values, and that can be kind of useful because then you can use the price as both a label and as something that you're doing some sort of analysis on, in this case, just counting. Um, Here's what we're going to do, though. We're going to, let's see, I'm going to highlight all of this, I believe. I'm going to right click. And once we right click, there's a setting right here that just says group. We're going to click on that. Oh, oops. Okay. Well, Control Z, undo. I'm going to click on the row label. Just group. Ah, okay, there we go. Yeah, we don't want to have the stuff highlighted, or else it's going to try to group the stuff we have highlighted in a particular way. So I'm just clicking anywhere in the table, really, on the column I'm concerned with, and I'm going to click right click and select group. And then we get this little tiny wizard that pops up that just asks us how we want to group it. So starting at 2,000, that makes sense. That's the lowest value. Ending at 49.59, which is the biggest one, except I'm going to make that around 5,000. Put that right there. Oh, I see what happened. If I don't use the exact value, it unchecks that. Okay. And then I want to go up by, let's just say, let's group it in groups of 1,000. That's not actually going to be very many groups, but we'll adjust it in just a second. And boom, there we go. So we can see that there are 12 cars in the 2,000 to 2,999, between $2,000 and $3,000, 6 in the other two categories. Kind of useful. It might be more useful, actually, to have this information in slightly smaller groups. So I can just right-click, go to grouping again. It has all that information saved, and I'm going to change this to 500 instead. And boom, automatically adjusts. It tells us exactly how many cars in each price range we have. So that was something I kind of wanted to show last time, but the web version of Excel doesn't have that grouping feature. But yeah, so that's how we can do that. As we're looking at this, I wanted to sort of demonstrate something else, which is just different ways that we can interact with these pivot tables. So if I double click on one of the row labels, so I just clicked on the top one, but it really doesn't matter which one you click on, double click on any of them, it brings up this show detail window. And what this lets us do is, pardon me, it lets us insert more detail. So this is just another way to add information to this pivot table. We could also do it over here in the pivot table fields, but sometimes this is a nice way to do it because we're saying, okay, here are price ranges. Why don't we add the vehicle makes to each of those price ranges so I can get a breakdown of one, which vehicle makes I have in each price range. And so notice it adds a little expandable button here, a little plus minus button. And I can expand each of these if I wanted to. And we can see the count of how many of each make are in that particular category. And it lets me very quickly see that, oh, I don't have any Fords in this lowest price category. Which, again, could be something useful that you want to find out. Part of the benefit of pivot tables is they let you find out data that you may not have necessarily been looking for, but that might be good to know. We may not have really been asking ourselves about, wait, is there a type of vehicle that we don't have at a certain price range or something? But by creating the pivot table, it just surfaces that data for us. Cool. Oh, also, just as always, since I'm on a couple different screens as I'm looking around, if either of you have like questions or anything, just go ahead and speak up, because I probably will not see the raise hand button because I'm not spending a ton of time on the video chat screen. So there's that. Ooh, right. And then one other thing that I wanted to show about sort of interacting with the pivot tables is, so these are our row labels, but if I wanted to go in here and find out more about these 3 Toyotas that are within this price range, what I can do is double click on that particular cell that contains that information. And notice what it did is it created a brand new sheet and inserted a table in this sheet that pulled all of our information out of the car inventory and reduced it down to just those three Toyotas that are in that price range. But now I have all of the information about them. I have their models, their colors, their mileage, and their cost in addition to their price. Um, and so I'm just going to Control Z and get rid of that. But we could do that with, we could even do that with this subcategory here. Double click and boom, it just pulls out all of the cars that are within that price range, and it's just a great way to extract data very quickly. So I literally extracted it just by double clicking. Um, so super handy. I'm gonna get rid of it. Cool. I'm gonna rename this as price count pivot table. I'm trying to organize these better for when I share them on the website with y'all. Um, cool. So there's that part of it. Um, questions about any of that? I was going to move into some pivot chart stuff.
I have a quick question, and
Yes.
it comes to happened to me today,
Uh-huh.
and it wasn't a huge deal, but so I had the 4 different sheets, and I went to save it,
Mm-hmm.
and it didn't save like the whole thing. It only saved the one sheet.
Were you saving it as an Excel file?
Yes.
Oh, because I've seen that happen if you save it as like a CSV, a comma separated values list.
Okay, so I think it was that because it came up as that, but I didn't even know what that meant because
Oh,
I am newbie to technology like this, and so I literally felt like an idiot today. I was
no,
like, oh my god.
Uh, no worries. I've actually lost. This happened just earlier this year. Actually, I lost a couple sheets of information uh, that there was just no way to recover. I just completely lost the data because I did exactly what you're talking about. So notice so the sheet that we're looking at right now, the file that we're looking at right now, there are 3 sheets in it. If I go File, Save As, bring this stuff up. There's all these different. There's click that. There's all these different ways to save the data. This XLSX format is Microsoft's specific format, their proprietary format. Um, Apple stuff and Google stuff can open it and read it, but this is their proprietary format, which is great if you're only going to be using this file within Excel. Um, However, sometimes you need to share out information in a way that is more platform and device agnostic. It just so it can be opened in sort of anything, which is what a CSV is. So this right here, oh, there's several different ones, but it doesn't really matter what we're talking about here in terms of these. They're both going to be. Oh, here's our general one. So CSV stands for comma separated values. This is it turns your entire spreadsheet. So actually, here, let me save this. Notice it pops this up. The selected file type does not support workbooks that contain multiple sheets. So it's giving us a warning.
That's
These
what
warnings. What's that?
That's what it gave me today.
Yeah.
That's what it said to me.
And so what you can do. So I'm going to click cancel. And so that right there. You go to File, Save As. And so what happened is somehow CSV got selected in your list. But if you just drop down this bottom menu underneath the name of your file, the very top option is going to be just an Excel workbook, and that's probably what you want to save it as. Um,
I have, I think, a little bit of a different version than you. So if I click this PC, it comes up as like, um, I can save it in like one of my files on my computer, but it doesn't give me like an Excel. Like I don't have a drop down menu like you do.
Mm, is it? Hang on. Do you have an options menu at all, or an options thing? Does it pop up something that looks like this at all, or is there any way to?
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
okay. So, does it still not have the menu underneath here though? Is it missing this?
Oh, no, wait, okay. So then what one, so then I need to do Excel workbook? Is that what I need to?
Yeah, this very top one, XLSX, is probably the file type that you want.
Okay, I I did it.
Perfect. Yeah. So a CSV is a much simpler file type, and it loses a lot of information. And one of the pieces of information it loses is a CSV doesn't have any way in the file structure to store multiple sheets. It can only store one sheet's worth of information. Um,
Okay.
yeah. Hey there, Jim. How's it going tonight?
It's going great.
Good.
Thank
Um,
you. I'm sorry I'm late.
that's all right. We were talking about some more pivot table stuff. I'll share the video though, so you'll be able to sort of review the first few minutes.
I'm
Um,
not really familiar with pivot tables, but I would like to learn.
yeah, and we're actually gonna keep talking about a little bit of stuff with them, and then we were just dealing with uh, the particulars of the various file types that you can save stuff as, and mainly we're just focusing on the fact that you're almost always going to want to save it as an XLSX. Any of these other ones have the potential of losing information out of your workbook. Um,
So you can't do macros.
so there is and actually we're gonna talk about macros probably next week. There is this macro enabled workbook one that's sort of the exception to what I was just talking about. And some of these
Okay.
actually you wouldn't lose data; they're just very specialized, right? Um,
Okay.
but yeah, but one thing we did see is if we try to save it as a CSV or a text document or something like that, if we try to save it, it's gonna pop up a warning that says you're very likely to lose data if you do this. You probably don't
Okay.
want to.
Yeah. Well, they
So
do that quite often in
yeah,
Excel.
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, what we were just talking about was how to get last time with the web version of Excel. I couldn't get the pivot table to break down the information in a range. So all I was showing people here was that if you right click, there's this group button and it lets you group numeric data. So these ranges right here are the prices of the cars in this file. And instead of displaying them um, all as the individual prices, I was able to group them just using the right click and group button. Um, and
Okay.
yeah, and then I was also going to show. So what I was about to move into was getting the pivot charts to work. I figured out what I was doing wrong last week. I'm going to click into the table, go to insert. I'm going to insert another pivot table, and I'll just insert it into a new worksheet. Is fine. All right, so here's our blank pivot table. Um, I want last week what I was trying to display was a count of car color, a graph that showed the breakdown of car colors by percentage. Um, and so what I did last week, so I'll sort of show you all what I did last week and how it didn't work. So I put the makes in there, and I put the colors, the count of colors in there. Um,
Hmm.
and I actually think I put the colors in here as well. Um, well, now I can't remember exactly how I had this information, but regardless, I was trying to display a table or a graph. And actually, let's go ahead and do that. Let's go here. Let's go insert. Select all of it. Go to insert. Go to pie graph here. Um, oh, this is actually working a little bit better than last week because it gives us a little drop down menu.
So
With
how do you get to that pie graph?
Yeah, super good question. I went a little fast there. I'm gonna right click. I'm gonna, where is my, where's my delete button? I want to delete this chart.
Oh,
Clear.
just go in the corner and do it.
There,
Go in
there's,
the
there's no.
corner, right click,
Oh,
corner, right in the corner, right click.
what?
There, right click and just cut.
Oh, I mean, yeah, I guess I could cut it. I was looking
Yeah,
for a delete option. That's a good
yeah,
point. That's a good way to use that. Okay,
yeah.
so part of what I was doing last week was I had the make in there, and I was screwing everything up. So what I want to do is I want to get rid of the make, and I want to put color also in our rows. Oops, also in our rows. There we go. And now we have
Okay,
a breakdown of the colors and the count of those colors. But
okay.
instead of count, I want to go down here and I want to do show value as um, percent of grand total. That's what I'm looking for. So we have that. So first of all, this is an adjustment I wanted to show. Is those counts are great, but maybe we care more about the proportion of the inventory. And so this is how we get that. And now, to answer your question, Jim, the way we get that table is in our insert menu. There is just a section that is just charts. So I just click the pie chart little graphic there, and it gives me
Okay.
it gives us a whole bunch of options for how we might want this pie chart to look, um, right? And that even previews as we cursor over it.
Okay.
I'm just going to choose the 2D
Okay.
one right here, and boom, it gives us a nice little breakdown.
Well,
Uh,
that's good. That's great to know. Yeah, it's
and
perfect.
then, and so
Yeah.
notice over here, oops, I accidentally clicked on that. There we go. Notice over here, this is changed from the pivot table fields to the pivot chart fields, which means we can sort of adjust this independently. And what I want to show
Ooh,
is
excuse me.
I wanted our formatting here. Style, color. No, this is for colors. Oh, pivot chart options. There we go. Um, so what we can do, there's a whole bunch of options in here that really just gets down into the nitty gritty of how you might want to display this. But for instance, we might actually want the percentages on the chart itself. Um, and so totals and filters, display. Um, this is actually organized a little bit differently than it is on the web version. I think this might not be the field I want, or the. Well, son of a gun, y'all. I was messing with this on the web version and didn't think to mess with it on the desktop version. Oh, here we go. Settings, pivot table options. What I want. Field buttons. Well, fine. Um. Oh, add data labels. Okay, they just moved it into the menu. Um. Add data labels. There it is. Um. So I mostly just wanted to illustrate that there are all sorts of ways that you can format this. Um, Notice there's all sorts of color options, font options. So if you need to present this data in some way, there's all sorts of formatting options, just like there would be if you were messing with something like this in Microsoft in Word or PowerPoint or something like that. But yeah, so for the charts, the one thing I did want to point out is the reason it wasn't working for me last week is I was trying to get a chart from too complicated of a pivot table. Uh, Charts are inherently designed to communicate data sort of more simply than a table can. And so if you have too complicated of a pivot table, you're going to probably struggle to get the chart to show exactly what you want it to show. So my recommendation then is start from scratch and sort of get the basic information you want in the table, create the chart, and then from there you can go in and start trying to add a little bit more information. So for instance, if we take this make and we want to add it to the value, what does that do to our table or to our chart and that sort of thing. Notice all it did here was it gives us a button, count of color, count of make. Oh shoot, are these hot? Are the percentages exactly the same? I think they are. Oh, okay. So this is not a good example because our percentages of these. So if I go down to count of make right here, go to settings, change this to percent of grand total, and go OK. Notice our percentages are exactly the same. So if these numbers were just a little bit different, clicking this would change the
Oh, I see.
the pie chart, but it just so happens coincidentally that our numbers are exactly the same. So that doesn't help us a ton. But yeah, there's our pivot chart, at least a basic version of it, because you can go in and do all sorts of stuff with this. And so if at some point, any of you would like to look even more closely at pivot charts, or doing a specific thing with them, I'm more than happy to dive even deeper into that. All right. That's the basic stuff I wanted to cover with pivot charts. Ooh.
So what, I wanted to tell you that I did answer my own question from last week.
About the external references?
Yes, I did. It's in references.
Yeah.
So
And so
so
I have
so
some.
I got my problem solved,
Nice. I'm happy to hear it.
and it actually works.
Even better. That's what you hope for. And so yeah, I was going to share with everybody sort of what I figured out about external references too, and so you might be able to chime in if you
Yeah,
have it.
that's good. I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, if you have extra information or if there's sort of a tip or trick that you
I don't
realize.
know, but I did figure it out. Yeah.
Nice. Before we go into that external references stuff, which is sort of the second major topic for tonight, I have one more thing I want to show you all with pivot tables. So really quick, I'm going to rename this just to keep it organized. This is the pivot chart tab. So I'm going to go back to our inventory one more time, and go to Insert, go to Pivot Table, create a new sheet. And so with this pivot table, what I would like to do is in our little tiny database that we have here of our dealership, we have price and we have cost. What we don't have is profit margin. And granted, I could add a profit margin field column here, and I think that's what I did last week as sort of a workaround. But we can make this happen even more easily than that. So what we're going to do is on this pivot table, what I want to do, I'm going to put, so it's going to be profit margin by make. But we could also do it by model or by color if we wanted to. We could place mileage into ranges and do it that way. But for now, I'm going to put make in row. Oops. In my rows. There you go. And I'm going to put make in our values. And then I also want the price here, but I don't want count of price. I want the sum of the price. So I'm just going to click update our value field setting and change that to sum. I also want cost. I'm going to bring cost down here, and it automatically made cost already a sum. So we're good there.
Mm-hmm.
And now what I would like to do is up in our analyze, our pivot table analyze ribbon right here. So I'm going to click that tab. You have somewhere in here, I at different things I was looking at, I know this ribbon gets laid out slightly differently, I think depending on your screen size and all that. But you should have a fields, items, and sets option, which could be under something. You might have a large, it's in the calculations section. Calculations might just be one big button for you that you drop down and you get fields, items, and sets. Anyway, within calculations, fields, items, and sets, and we want to go to calculated field. We're going to insert a field that's calculated. We're going to call this, so it brings up this little wizard. Our new field, I want to call it profit margin. Boom, profit margin. And down here, this is where we tell it, okay, what do you want to calculate? Right now it just says equals 0. I don't want that. So I'm going to delete the 0. So profit margin is just the price you sell the car for minus the cost of the car, for a basic profit margin, right? So I'm going to click price, go insert field. I'm going to hit minus, a hyphen on the keyboard, and then cost. So we can insert field, or we can double click it and it'll pop up there. And I'm going to click, you know what? Because I already have this in here. If you haven't done this before, instead of modify, it's going to call this add. But I was working on this file earlier, and I had already added this, so it says modify instead of add. But yeah, it'll say add. You click add, and it puts profit margin over here in our available fields. I'm going to click OK. And so right over here with profit margin, I'm going to drag profit margin down to our values. Oops. And I want to put it below cost. There we go. And now, it did not do the right thing. This is clearly not correct. That minus that is not that. What did it do? Is it because I put it in the wrong spot initially? Well, here's what we can do. Boom.
Sorry.
All right, here, is a good way to do this. I want to get rid of this, take that off. I was running into this problem earlier, actually, when I was messing with this. It was doing the same thing, and the way I fixed it, so this is one of the things I want to talk about tonight, is our troubleshooting sort of thing. Clearly, so I inserted this, price minus cost, that should be correct, right? We're pretty sure that simple calculation is the right thing to do, but we can clearly see that 14,000 minus 13,000 should not be negative 13,000. That's why I put it in parentheses, because it's saying negative. So here's what I did last time. I went ahead and got rid of the tab that had the table. Here's my other table that I just made. I'm going to go delete. I'm going to delete this one too. I'm going back to car inventory, clicking on this, going to insert, pivot table. It's going to select all of it. So I'm basically just restarting this process. This is something that I teach my math students a lot. I'm like, if you're trying to find your mistake in a problem and you spend more than a couple minutes, oftentimes the easiest thing to do is just start back from scratch, because it might be hard to find your mistake. So here's what we're going to do. We want our make in rows. Actually, we don't even really need the make in values. I was just having it there for the count. What we really want is price, but we don't want count of price. We want the sum of price, so we're going to change it to sum. We want cost. Boom. Okay. And now we're going to go up to fields, item, and sets, calculated field. Profit margin is already in here. So what I'm going to do is changes to profit margin. But notice now that it says that, it has this modify, which is fine because I'm going to go in here and I'm going to tell it, okay, price minus cost, insert, and we'll go. I didn't click modify. Son of a gun, y'all. All right, here we go. One more time. Boom. Profit margin down to here. Price minus cost, insert. Oh, I spelled profit margin wrong. Click modify. There we go. That's going to actually save this, all of this, to that field. Click OK. And now, if I drag this down here, son of a gun. Okay, I'm going to have to troubleshoot that. That is exactly the way that's supposed to work. So I am not sure what it... Oh, well, you know what we could do? I showed you this earlier. I'm going to double click on it and see if there's any issues with the data. But it doesn't look like it should be doing price minus cost. But this is, again, another good use case for that, this double click, right? Is you're like, okay, something weird is happening here. Double click on it, and we could see very quickly, is it a problem with the data? Do we have like zeros in one of our columns or something like that? And nope, we don't. Sum of price, sum of cost, sum of profit margin. That's definitely what we want there. So, well done, y'all. I was excited about showing you that, and I'm not sure why it's working. I got it working earlier, but I'm ultimately not sure what I actually fixed in the long run. So I will mess with that, and we will revisit it next week. I'll have that working, and also try to figure out exactly why it's doing this, so I can sort of give you a avoid doing this, or else you're going to get some weird behavior like this. Suffice it to say, and we'll talk more specifically about how to make sure this sort of stuff ends up working. But suffice it to say, you can quickly insert extra calculations from your data just right in the pivot chart using, oops, I went the wrong one, just right from this calculated fields. And I'll figure out what's causing it to act strangely. And I'll just add that to the discussion next week. In fact, I will make a note of it. There we go. Next time. Get calculated fields working. Perfect. Okay. There's that added to my notes. All right. So I thought that was going to be a cool thing. We will just move right along, and I can look into that, and I'll share with you what my troubleshooting process was, so you all can benefit from it. With that in mind, yeah, I think that's all the pivot table stuff I have for tonight. There's even more pivot table stuff, and my plan was to have a few extra like tips and tricks for y'all for next time. But for now, I wanted to move on to the topic that Jim had brought up last week, the external references, because this ultimately can be really useful for an organization. In fact, I use this feature not in Excel, but with Google Sheets. This is how I managed. So outside of teaching this class for LB, I have a tutoring business, and this is how I manage all of my clients, is with an interconnected series of Google Sheets, spreadsheets, where I'm pulling data from one sheet and inserting data into it and stuff like that. So it's a thing that we can definitely do in Excel as well. So what I would like to do, I will leave this open. Ooh, what I wanted to do though, something I thought I hoped would be useful, is I wanted to sort of quickly walk you all through my process of finding out this information. So I knew that accessing information in one Google Excel file from another Excel, I knew that this was possible, but I hadn't done it since like college when I was using a lot of Excel for that stuff, and so I needed to relearn how to do it. And so what I wanted to do was walk you all through sort of my process, mostly because I strongly believe it's not with pretty much anything, but especially like programs like Excel and tech stuff, it's not about knowing everything about it. You're not going to know everything about it unless you use that information all the time. What's more important is having the information literacy to find what you need when you need it. And so what I wanted to walk you all through was here. Where's my? Yeah, let's do this. So Jim had asked this question about accessing information, uh, accessing data in one file from another file. So the way I started off was I just did a Google search, access Excel file from other Excel file. This is the exact Google search I did. I just needed a starting place. This is the search I did. I realized I had phrased my question sort of a little incorrectly. I clicked the did you mean thing, right? Didn't really change our results too much. And I saw this first thing here, get external data. It's talking about Excel. That seemed to make sense. So I clicked on this first link. And then as soon as I got in here, just sort of glancing through it, right away I noticed it was talking about Access, which is not Excel. Access is Microsoft's database software, and that's not what I'm dealing with. So right away I saw this isn't what I need. So I backed out. Oh my goodness. There you go. I backed out. And then what did I click on next? I think it was just the second one. Oh yeah, it definitely was this one. Create an external reference link, and right here I was like, I realized just this result had good information in that this is telling me what this feature is called. This feature is called an external reference, and that helped me find more information. I clicked on this and I got most of the information I needed from this page, but I looked up a little bit of other supplemental information, and I knew I had a better search result or a better search term. I could search for Excel external reference. And boom, I had all sorts of resources about using external references in Excel. So I don't, I just sort of wanted to break down any illusion that I know a whole bunch of stuff off the top of my head about Excel. I don't. I understand how Excel works, and so I can quickly learn about Excel and implement things, and that's, I think, what makes me like an Excel person. But I don't have all sorts of deep knowledge about it. I Google stuff just like everybody else, and that's the most important skill. So that's how I figured this stuff out. Let's actually look at it. So what I wanted to do was I'm going to try to pull information from this car inventory file because it's convenient. It's already open. I already know where it's at on my computer. What I wanted to do, let's open up another file. External reference. All right. Give it a sec. There we go. Okay. So, how is this pretty big? Let's make this a little bigger. There we go. Okay. So right here, this might look kind of familiar from the last class, Excel 1. This is just a pretty involved reference. Um, I want to I'm going to delete all of this and I'll build it from scratch. Um, so let's say I want to pull in just this cost right here, just this number for right now. So this is F2, cell F2 in the car inventory tab of the car inventory with pivot table and chart XLSX. I did myself a disservice with that big long name, but that's going to be totally okay. So the way we do this, just like anytime we want to reference some other piece of information in Excel, we do an equal sign. And now for this, though, we're going to do a single quote, and we're going to do a square bracket. Inside this square bracket, we're going to put the name of that file. So the way I'm going to get that name really quick, though. Oops. Yes, that's fine. I'm going to... Oh my gosh. Okay. I'm going to delete that so it'll let me actually... I'm going to go over here. I'm going to go to Save As, and I'm going to highlight and copy this just as an easy way to get that name exactly. And so now I'm going to go back over to this file, equals, single quote, square bracket, and now I'm going to paste that and do .xlsx, which is the file type. I'm going to close my square bracket, and then afterwards I'm going to type car inventory because that is the name of the sheet within this file that has the information I want. I'm going to close my single quote. I'm going to put an exclamation point. That exclamation point, if you remember back from Excel1, is how we do a sheet reference. But really, it's just that exclamation point tells Excel, you need to reference something that is not on the current sheet. And then the data I wanted was in cell F2 on that file. And boom, there it is. There's the 3,000, right? This is very basic. We pulled in one piece of information, right? Here's what's cool. So this says 3,000. I'm going to go over here, that cell F2. I'm going to change it to 3,500. And now go back, and boom, it updated here. So it is pulling that information live. Notice I can't change the information here, though. This is a one-way connection. Because if I try to change the information here, I'm actually editing this formula. So if I try to change this to 3,200 or something, well, now I've just gotten rid of my formula, so it doesn't even know what it's supposed to be connected to. I'm going to just undo that. So we were able to type in the name of this and just that because the file is currently open, right? This car inventory with pivot table and chart is currently open. If the file is not currently open, which you can imagine you don't want to have to, if you had to open the file just to pull information from it, you could just copy and paste it, right? So that's not what we want to do. So I'm going to close this. Yes, I want to save it. Notice now, though, in this cell, it has changed this reference for me. Instead of just the name of the file, it has inserted the file path, where that file is located on my computer. And so now, even though that file isn't open, it can still pull information from it. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to close this file as well. Yep, we'll save it. So it currently has that reference. I'm going to open the car inventory back up. Change this back to the 3,000. Save it and close it. And then open our external reference again. And now notice it brings up this little warning. It contains links to one or more external sources that could be unsafe. So it's letting you know it's pulling in external data. If you trust the links, you can update it, or you can tell it don't update. I'm going to tell update, and boom, it updates that 3,000 to reflect the update in the external file. And notice it still has it as the as the file path. And so long as the file stays at that location, so if you move the target file around, it's going to break this connection because Excel is looking in this very specific in my uploads folder for that file. So that's one thing you want to be careful about with this. Even still, so that's sort of the what am I trying to say? That's one way to get that file access, is to open the file you want to access first, get the name, put it in there, and then close the file, and Excel will automatically insert the path information, the file path information. But what if you don't want to open it, something like that? Really quick, I wanted to show you how we could get that information without opening the other file. Let's make this bigger. Okay, so I need that file path information. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate to wherever the file I want to reference is stored. So here's the car inventory. It's right here. I'm going to hold down my shift button, and I'm going to right click on it. What that does is it gives you extra options in your right click menu. One of the extra options it gives you is this copy as path. So I'm going to click that, and now what I've done, if I go in here and click equals, single quote, square bracket, and now if I paste, Control V, it copied the entire path of that file for me. So that's a quick way to get it without having to open the file first. And now I can close my square brackets, say car inventory, do that, do F2 or F3 even, get the, oops. Oh, I see what it did. Aha. It put quotes around this. Excel doesn't like those quotes inside there. So there we go. Now I should be able to do it. Uh-oh. Okay, fine. Oops.
A bracket at the end.
What's up? Oh,
A bracket at the end.
No, I have a bracket at the end. It's
No. Yeah, you do. Yeah, yes, you do.
here, I'm going to copy all of this really quick. Because
Okay.
I think what it wants. Yeah, okay. I didn't realize this when I was messing with stuff. These are backslashes.
Oh.
And this, nope, they're backslashes there too. Well, son of a gun. Yeah, that's weird because that worked for me earlier. SLX. Oops. What is our? Oh, I see. It doesn't want the file path inside the square brackets. That's what it is. Okay, so over here. Here we go. So that square bracket, we put that right before the file name, but leave all of the path information. Okay, so that's a little bit complicated. This might be getting a little bit more sort of down into the nitty-gritty of the file system and stuff than you care to be. But regardless, you can come back and reference this video if you ever need to do this. That is the particulars of that, though. Something that's really cool about this, instead of accessing file or cell F3 right here, I'm going to do A1. Oops, A1. So I get make because that's the first cell in there. And check out what I can do. I'm going to drag this over to F. I get all of the other headings. I'm going to grab the handle here. I'm going to drag it down. And notice I can just pull in all of the data. So this is a super quick way to pull in data from another sheet, notice what happens. So I've extended this down further than the data in the original sheet exists. So it fills in zeros, but we can just get rid of those by just dragging back up. Boom. And now this is all live information. This is a live copy of the information in the car inventory file. If I update any of that information, the corresponding information in here will also be updated. So this is really useful if you have, say, a central sort of database style file that your whole organization uses, where you have, say, client information or something like that, but multiple people need to be able to pull from that information, but you don't want to give everybody a separate copy, because then if the information gets updated, everybody's information, you have to find a way to update everybody's information. So this way you can maintain a single, what we refer to as a single source of truth, that everybody else is pulling from, but they don't have any ability to accidentally change it, right? So there's a lot of data security or data preservation aspects to using this external reference. Oops, that's the wrong button. Let's see. Oh, yes. One last thing I wanted to mention is we can use named ranges for this. So I'm going to go back to this. I'm going to open up our car inventory real quick. Okay. And I am just going to, I'm going to highlight let's highlight the colors. It doesn't really matter. I'm just using this example. I'm going to highlight them. I'm going to right click, and right down here near the bottom it is define name. So I'm going to define what's called a named range. And I'm just going to call this range colors. These are the car colors. And click OK. And now what I can do, I'll even save this and close it, because this doesn't have to be open to do this. Let's zoom in here. So what I want to do is I want to pull in that whole list of colors. So I'm going to do equals, there's our single quote, paste our path. Oh, I just pasted everything. That's okay. There's our path. There's our square bracket right there with the actual file name in it. There's the sheet name. Close the single quotes. Put an exclamation point in, and now instead of a specific reference, A1, F3, whatever, I'm just going to type colors, because that's the name of the named range, and do that, and boom, it gives me the entire list. It also lets me know that, oh, the information you're trying to pull in is more than one cell's worth of information, so we spilled all that information over. And now we have all of that color information that we could refer to if we wanted to. But I just wanted to demonstrate that this external reference also works with named ranges. And named ranges can be a super handy way to simplify accessing certain sets of information in a file that you access all the time. If you just name that range a specific thing, then you can just refer to it by name. Yeah, I think that was the external reference stuff I wanted to talk about. Let me check my notes. Go back over here. Nice. Okay, cool. So might not be a thing you have use for right away, but just for myself, I can see a whole bunch of use cases for this external reference stuff. Like I said, like you can build a pretty nice like system for yourself where you have like a single file where you keep a whole bunch of information, and then you can pull that information out to do stuff with it in different files, especially if multiple people need to share that information. Cool. Questions about that? Any comments, want to know anything more specifically about it? Sorry, I have this pulled up over the screen. Cool. So with that pivot table information and the external references, that's sort of what I had planned for tonight. Wasn't sure exactly how long it was going to take. So next time, oh, I can actually update. I can refresh this. I updated this list. There we go. There we go. Next time, I want to talk about macros, which are basically ways that you can record a sequence of actions in Excel and get it to duplicate those actions with a single sort of shortcut. We'll talk more about it next time, but they're a great time saver for things that you do, like repeated Excel tasks. If you always do the exact same thing with various Excel files and stuff, you can set up a macro so that it can just do it for you automatically. I was also just going to bring in a few, now that we've talked a lot about pivot tables, just talk about a few more tips and tricks, just things to keep in mind with them or things that can make them work even better. And I will get those calculated fields working, figure out why they weren't. And then one thing I wanted to propose to you all for the final day, I was going to see if you all, since there's only 3 of us in here, or 3 of you all in here, I would be super down to sort of allot 45 minutes from that last class meeting. If you each wanted to do just like a one-on-one thing, you could like share your screen and show me like the spreadsheet stuff that you're working on and ask any specific questions and that sort of thing. Is that of interest to anybody?
Yes, I would be interested.
Yeah. Cool. Then I will keep that in mind. We can discuss that next week and figure out who wants to go into what time slot.
And possibly.
Yeah. And so yeah, I'll figure out who's interested, and then I'll sort of figure out how to allot the time. But we can deal with that next week. I just wanted to gauge interest tonight to figure out should I be planning for a full 2 hours next week, or should I just be planning to sort of help troubleshoot and help do specific, look at your specific spreadsheets. Cool. That's basically what I have for tonight. I will get once I'm able to get this video processed into YouTube. It usually takes a good hour or so to get it fully uploaded and available on YouTube. And then I will get the updated file that we created tonight, or 2 files, because there's the external references ones. I'll get those in here. I already have a pivot tables tutorial in here. As I was looking around at stuff, I came across this person who I just thought made really good videos. They're easy to follow. They're high quality. So this person right here could be somebody to check out if you're just trying to find extra information on YouTube. This could be a good channel to subscribe to or something. Yeah. Anybody else want it? We still have several minutes, but I'm totally willing to give you some of your evening back.
Thank you, Ryan. Good night.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for popping in, Jim. And yeah, we'll be back at it next week.
Thanks,
Thank
Ryan.
you.
Absolutely. Good to see you all. I hope you all have a good night.
Have a good night.
You too.
Hey, Ryan.
Yes.
I am not able to share my information, unfortunately, because of work. It's a
Sure.
confidential thing, but I could come to the class up to the point where people want to come out and break out and do the private one-on-one thing with you. That's fine.
Okay. Yeah, I was wondering about that. I knew it might be a little bit easier to like share if it's just like with me, you're not sharing with the whole class, but I knew, it might be the case that it's just not possible to share the data at all.
Yeah. And I'm bummed, but actually, listening to a lot of this has been very helpful. So, I'll just, listen as much as I can.
Yeah, I mean, and you would obviously know better than I do. You work there, but you might check in and see if it, because I mean, I have been hired before as like an outside consultant for stuff like this, but also if that was going to be the case, you all might need me to sign like something, so it
Yeah.
might be more trouble than it's worth.
Yeah,
Um,
it's HP and they're really
oh,
slowy
is
about
it?
it.
Oh, heck yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a ton of sense. Okay. Well, then yeah, as you can form sort of questions around it, I am more than happy to sort of try to dive in and help you figure out whatever it is you need to figure out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I just didn't want you to think like, oh, she doesn't want any help. It's like, no, I do, but this has been as helpful as I can get.
Fair enough. Yeah, and just keep letting me know what sort of things
Okay.
I can explain or demonstrate or whatever, and yeah, we'll keep digging in.
Yeah. Okay, well, great. Well, the pivot tables stuff has been so helpful because that's the bulk of what I'm using right now. So,
Yeah, that makes sense.
yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Have an awesome night.
Thanks, you too. Bye bye.
Bye now.